Hello everyone. So just first a question, who is not French? Okay, we can stick to English, that's good. So thank you to l'Atelier, thank you to receive us. My name is OUSSAMA AMMAR, I'm one of the 3 co-founders of the family. It's always funny when we try to describe the family because people always try to pin something on us, like incubator, accelerator, especially here in the Valley, where everybody loves tag and hashtags. So it's always funny for us to describe ourselves. But I have a description I like a lot. We are a family. You know, it's in our name. We are a family that support business very early stage. Like any family, we try to take people as soon as possible in our loving home. And like any family, we provide them education, some services, and a lot of support in terms of money and on the long term. So, like a family, we do all of that for people that are inside our network. The family started in 2013. We have more than 500 startups now, 220 survived, 110 got venture funding. 5 of them now are up to or off to 100 million valuations. So it's start to look at something that global players start to consider. And 1 year ago, we started to, actually 2 years ago even, we started to expand in Europe. And that's what I want to share with you tonight, is what did we learn from our European expansion, what that expansion teach us about Europe, how that compare to United States and Silicon Valley ecosystem, and where the family is going. So, launching in London and Berlin have been a very humble experience for us, because it started as a huge failure. You know, the very funny thing about international expansion is that it never really go well. And about this point, I think there is like a very kind of big backlash in Europe around that expanding internationally is so unnatural for European companies that you will never get support from anyone about that. When it was very low in terms of morals, not understanding why it was not working out, everybody told us the same thing: don't expand. Like the very single piece of advice we got from everyone was, you know what, you should go back and stay in France. It's so successful in France, I don't know why you are putting that at risk anywhere. And the funny thing is that when we started to talk with people in the US, we actually discovered that in the US, in terms of investment activity, the feeling is the same. Because the funny thing is that no one succeeds at scaling an investment operation anywhere. If you look Silicon Valley, it's very insular. You know, some people in Palo Alto tell you, where are you based? Oh, in San Francisco. I'm not sure I'm coming to San Francisco this week. You know, it's like if they are that insular about their investment, it's not a very good case, and there's not a lot of inspiration we can take from. So everyone in Silicon Valley told us the same thing. Why are you trying to expand? You are so successful in France. Stick to France, focus on what you are good at. So why do we need or want to expand in the first place? For 2 reasons. The first thing is that I was not born French. I was born Lebanese. And I think as a Lebanese, I feel local everywhere. And so that created always a tension for me to go out from France. And I think one of the things that people don't understand about the French ecosystem is that it's so small, and by definition it will always be small, because whatever you think about France, France is a small country. That's a reality that we can do anything about will not change. It's a small country. And so as a small country, if you want to build something big, you have to go out from the frontiers. And the second thing is that if you have ambition for Europe, you have to somehow make it work at European level. There is something really weird about the business world, is that right now, it's easier for anyone in Europe launching a European company to come to the US and launch this company and fail than going anywhere else in Europe and failing too. Because the truth is that most of the people that will launch their company in the US will fail. That's fine. But it will be easier for them to come here and try here than, let's say, in Germany or UK, or Spain, or Italy, or any of the European countries. Why? Because market opportunity is so small. Europe is big as a market, all unite together, but no one never unite Europe as a market. 27 countries, a lot of cultural barriers, different language, not transparency of market, a lot of hassle. You all know all these problems that come with expansion in Europe. And still, what is a very regular story? You have some startup in the US that raise so much money that they have no other choice but expanding worldwide. They come with this money in Europe, fail in every single country with the Series C or Series D, and then succeed with the Series E or Series F. Because after spending enough money for enough time, they finally figure out something that works. So that pressure for us was very important. We want, as an organization, to build something bigger than France alone, and we wanted to do it well. And something very strange happened. We met Paul Graham. So, for the people that don't know who Paul Graham is, he's the founder of Y Combinator, and maybe one of the most impressive men we never met from far. It's really magical. He has like this thing, and I met randomly this guy in the lobby of a hotel in Paris. A true story. You know, sometimes life gives you opportunity. And we told him everything. We told him that we are struggling about expanding, blah, blah, blah. And he said something that stuck with us and changed our approach about Europe. He said, you are doing something that is local, and you are telling me that doing it locally is not enough. What it will look like if it was born local, but in multiple countries? What the family will look like if the family on day one was born in London, Paris, and Berlin? And I replied with a joke. I said, oh, if that was true, I would have put the money in London, the swag in Paris, and the discipline in Berlin. I said, here we go, you got your model. And then, joke aside, I went to sleep, and I wake up in the middle of the night saying, oh my God, he's right. Actually, caricatures are great. Why? Because they provide a story that people can understand very easily. And so, if you think about our expansion, and if you think about Europe, you have to think about the fact that the European ecosystem have this very weird characteristic. They are strong on few elements. And that's why in this very teeny and weird competition about who will be next Silicon Valley, you can debate for hours and hours and hours without anyone winning any side. Why? Because every city in Europe, Paris, London, and Berlin, have something that is really strong and really good internally. Fundraising in London is one of the best in the world. If you compare average valuation of startup in London in seed, it will be higher than average valuation in Silicon Valley. Because there is a lot of money around in London. Because by definition, the city is built around money. If you walk in London and you say startup, some money comes on you. You can try. Go to London, try it. You'll see true story. If you think about France, there is few startups in France that make it. But what they have all in common? They have all in common that they think big in terms of idea. Like if you look at French startups, most of the very successful ones, they are really incredible on the product side, technical side. We can see that in our portfolio. Like if we take our top 10, there is no one that is a copycat. None of our top 10 startups is a fucking copycat of an American company. They are all innovating. Why? Because French proud is bigger than any copycat methodology. That's why we are not German. It's because we don't have like this thing that is focused on operation. But the problem is that we invent thousands of things. We are very often first with concept in history of startup, but we execute them so badly that no one never heard about it. But still, there is this creativity, there is this vision, there is this thinking that is here. And if you look about Berlin, we are in Berlin from last September, and this is really funny how much this is nation of COO. Like, if you talk about anyone in Berlin about startups, you will always end up in less than 5 minutes having an operational discussion. I don't remember having an operational discussion with a French entrepreneur once in my life. You know, he will be like, so what do you do? I'm doing this marketplace, so Jardin Dwarf can be bought in less than 1 click. Oh, seriously? That's cool. Yeah, and we are struggling with supply in Poland, and we met this guy. Wait, actually I don't really care. No, I need to talk to you about that. And why? Because it's a real nation of COO. In Berlin, entrepreneurship means execution. Rocket Internet, think whatever you want about Rocket Internet, did something incredible. They copycat a lot of startups around the world, and for most of them, execute them on a level of scale that no one can imagine. They launched countries where there was no infrastructure at all about internet. They even invented full stack services in Indonesia, Russia, Africa. They did things in terms of operation that non-organization never did. And that trained thousands of people that are now on the market and ready to do the next thing because their vesting end up, so they get fired. so they need to find a new challenge. And so if you think about this picture, then it becomes very interesting because you can invent a new model. And now let's think a little bit about the macro view of that. If you look right now, what is happening? In my opinion, there is like this huge competition about what will be the future. You have two ways of seeing the future. One way can be the way of playing the game of predicting the future. You can sit down, look at trends, and try to say, oh, in 10 years, everyone will have an artificial intelligence assistant that takes decisions for them. And you can try to predict. So that's the Nostradamus game, called Jack Attali game in France. It's like, do prediction, but that's as big as possible, because people will only remember that if they are true. Because if they are wrong, nobody will remember, but if they are true, everyone will be like, oh, he said it a long time before everyone. So if you say enough things, you end up being right. It's just a statistical game. And you don't need to be right so often. But the problem with this game is that it's not very interesting and not very applicable of what is really happening. What is really happening is that the best way to predict the future is to build it. If you want that in 10 years, everyone use an artificial intelligence assistant, it will be really helpful if you build it yourself. Because every startup that is built is a little piece of future that is created right now. So, Game of Thrones we are all playing. You know, the invisible throne in terms of entrepreneurship is not money or valuation. It's how much your personal vision of the future end up winning. And the funny thing is that in this game, Europe has been totally out for years. Why? Because for years, it was kind of an easy game, the future. America invents the future, China copied it, and we regulate it. Like, that was everyone has his role in this big game. But two things happened in the last 10 years that I think changed a lot of things. The first thing is that America is showing signs of depression, and big time. Donald Trump is just the last step of a very long process of America not being America anymore. All of that started at September 11. Like when America was not the open country anymore and started to fear people with a name like OUSSAMA, arresting them in airport. When that started, people like OUSSAMA started to tell themselves, maybe America is not the land where I want to live. And the day that happened, he created a fork. He created a big fork about a lot of people that decided to live somewhere else, the American dream. And the funny thing with the American dream is that this very simple idea that you can do anything just by your willing and the capacity of yourself is something that now is exported everywhere. You know, you can see it on platforms like Coursera. Like, who uses Coursera here? Okay, so everyone knows Coursera, yeah? Half of the users of Coursera live in an emerging country. And 2/3 of them are under 18 years old. That's the reality of Coursera. American teens are not on Coursera. African teens are. Asian teens are. European teens are. If you look in Eastern Europe, how many under 18 people are using Coursera every week to learn stuff by themselves? Like, this full stuff will never get a visa. Because the number of people that will get a visa in the next 10 years will be much smaller than the number of people that deserve it. And that creates a tension that is creating an opportunity about this future game. And the second thing that is very interesting to look is how the Silicon Valley become transhumanic. Transhumanism is kind of a widespread philosophy here around. If you look at any big companies, Facebook aside, all of them have this obsession about merging with computer or becoming robots. I have my personal explanation about that. All the sexual harassment stories of these days are for me a sign that the Valley was so wrong about what people want and what people need. And the funny thing is that now technical talent is widespread. There is no exclusivity on knowledge anymore. Simple fact that anyone can access Silicon Valley knowledge on global scale. The family is a very tiny phenomenon of that. The education platform we built is just about taking the best knowledge of Silicon Valley and bring it to Europe. And bring it big time. And make it available. And be in position where anyone can use it. And so, what that creates? That creates an opportunity for Europe to be one of the players about the game of building the future. And what is very interesting about that now the Valley can give a resource for that like any other place. For example, let's take all the traditional questions that people ask and show you how much they are not relevant anymore. Question number 1, where should I be based? You know, before where you are based is a big obsession of any entrepreneur. And most of you, if you are here, you are trying to base yourself here, but is it the smartest thing to do? For example, at the family, we have a lot of companies that pretend to be in the Valley, but they are not. Why? Because fake it until you make it, my friends. And it works. Like, you don't imagine how cheaper it is to fake your presence in the Valley than actually being in the Valley. Why? Because the net safety of really being in the Valley is not that high anymore. Cost of transportation are lower. Cost of living here are higher. It's way cheaper to come here once a month in business class for 1 week and pretending that you are focused the 3 other weeks and so you cannot take meetings than actually renting a 2 scrappy bedroom here. Think about that. Think about that perspective. What does it mean in terms of entrepreneurship? It means that you can access the value resource that are more open than ever for any company, anywhere they are. Look, Zenly case. Zenly is a very good example of that. 300 million exit, not officially exit. All of that happening from Paris. If you talk to a lot of people here about Zenly, they will tell you, yeah, Zenly is a Paris-based company. Seriously? They are in Paris? No. I saw Antoine in Silicon Valley last week. Yeah, it explained. Look at Algolia. Algolia is a Valley company. But where is the majority of employees at Algolia? In France. Look, Bing. This is a company in Montpellier. Everything is possible in this world. You can be in Montpellier and exit in Silicon Valley. She made everyone believe that she was here for 1 week. And she was here 1 week every month And she made everyone thinking it's a valid company. Let's take another example. Knowledge and training. If you want to train your employee to be the best employee in their field, 10 years ago, being in Silicon Valley was an edge in terms of technical knowledge, technical accessibilities. Now it's not. Why? Because being here is too much pressure, not good lifestyle, not good salaries, but still all the knowledge that is produced here can be accessed from anywhere. MOOCs, YouTube, forums, main list, speakers. For example, at the family, we just bought something called nomadic mentors. Why did we buy nomadic mentors? Because we want to spread Silicon Valley knowledge everywhere. How many times do you think mentors from Silicon Valley needs to visit an incubator in any country to make everyone using a Silicon Valley methodology in this country? 2 times, 5 times, 10 times? Not that much. Whatever the number is, it will be always smaller than what people imagine for real. Because even if people are very slow to get it, they will finally get it. And you just need one example of success. We see that in our portfolio. Some companies started to apply this methodology of really thinking very strategically about where, like, you know, it's like the memes where you have like this case where people think you are, where you really are, what you think you are, and what you should be in. And if you have a different answer in every case, then you are becoming a global company. And if you are becoming a global company, it's easier and easier. And if it's easier and easier, then it means that being in America is not necessary anymore. And so where you are becomes a very personal lifestyle decision. And if it's a very personal lifestyle decision, then it doesn't really have an economic edge about your company. Of course, that is not true for 100% of industries. For example, if you want to build a social network, better to be really here full time. But if you are building something outside that, Silicon, or if you, let's say you are building an hardware company, you will have better time to spend in China than spending in Valley for industrial knowledge. And so that's what is becoming important about startup. And in that sense, Europe is back. And why Europe is back? It's not just because we elected the most sexy president of Europe. It's also for deeper reason. It's because Europe cannot screw entrepreneurs at scale anymore. If you think about entrepreneurship 15 years ago in Europe, all of the entrepreneurship obsession was turned around governments. If you talk to entrepreneurs 15 years ago about what needs to happen to make better entrepreneurs, they will always give you high policy answers. We need to pay less tax. We need to get a simplification around administrative process. We need blah, 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 blah. But the family did something, and I think we are one of the first to do it, and now it's becoming more and more common in Europe. We built something without never talking to governments and just hacking the environment to our needs. Why? Because all this complexity becomes invisible through software. And by the way, most of them are big startups now. Let's take payroll. Payroll is a nightmare in France. Anyone that paid one employee one day in his life in France knows how much it's a nightmare. You have 2 choices around that. Choice 1, you can go and see the government and try to convince them to make that simple. Good luck. Some people tried, they all died. Or you can build Payfit. And Payfit makes it so easy that you don't care about the complexity anymore, because it becomes something in the back end. On the front end, it's just a software that takes 15 seconds to install, 20 minutes to configure, and it's done. And you can do that on anything in Europe that doesn't work out. And by the way, all of that is a huge business opportunity. So all this toxicity around is actually an opportunity to build a first generation of infrastructure that doesn't need any government help. And if you don't need any government help, then as entrepreneurs, we can do things our way. And why Europe is back? Because I think a few years ago, a lot of people in Europe started to understand that. And so if you think now about the European structure, right now politically, Europe is a mess. We have Brexit, for UK. We have non-real political level. The complexity, we tried once to organize a meeting with the European Commission. It's kind of a joke, you know, it's like it looked like, you know, this Kafkaian organization where no one really knows how it works. But if we want to make Europe a reality, we can do it on the private level. We can start to use the best of each city. We can start with Paris, London, and Berlin, and then we can take the best of every city and merge them together. We can build infrastructure to make operating from a country to another automatic. For example, we launched in Germany legal Strasse. I don't speak German yet. I think life is too short to learn German. Don't you agree, Hugo? So why do you need to wait a French company to launch something like that in Germany? It's all the legal documents in Germany, open source, for free, online, that any entrepreneur can use. Because we are not a French company. We are European at heart. And what we did for Germany, we can do it in every single country. It doesn't take that much of an effort. And you can name any problem that Europe has. Now software and hacker mindset can be used at scale to solve all these issues. And in that sense, that's the real entrepreneurial opportunity of Europe. Most of the US will close on themselves. They just announced that the entrepreneur visa will not be renewed. Create more people for deal flow. Because again, if this just leaves the ESTA, we don't need more than a week, a month to take the best of Silicon Valley for our startup. I'm not saying that we should not build Link. I'm just saying that we don't need to serve anymore. And I think that's what is important. So we are not too lost. I'm sure you are living in America, so you are not French people that don't ask questions. You become American on that side. And so maybe we can do something interactive on this very simple notion that Europe is one very big opportunity for entrepreneurs now, because the barrier to develop things in Europe are disappearing. What do you think? Please.
It's very funny because I'm here only for 2 months. I live in Paris, and I met entrepreneurs and people who launched a company with French people, and they all don't believe in France. They tell me like, why you don't go back to France? Why you don't stay here? People in France, they don't know how to train. They are not motivated to work a lot, long hours, because salaries are very low compared to. I can see my friends here in the startups that have better salaries in France. So it's not the same.
So trust French people to complain wherever they are. And that's fine, because soon they will complain about the American situation. So yesterday, America announced for the first time a slowdown in GDP. What will happen? It's quite easy to understand. You know why startups are so interesting in economics? It's because they are always the first victim in line. Always. It's like, you know, startup is extra money. Like, if you take the venture, you know, we say like, a venture is a bubble, blah, blah, blah. You know how much of the GDP of the US is invested in venture, and it's a world record? Someone can give me this number? How much of the GDP of America is used in venture? Say a number, let's play. If someone gets the right number, we invite him to dinner after.
70%.
70% out, no dinner for you. 5% out.
8.
10, 8.
0.1.
The game is done. All of you are wrong. It's less than 1%. 1%. 27 billion a year. 37 billion a year. You know how much money is invested in private equity every year in the US? It's around 1,200 billion. Just to give you some comparison. So 37 billion is available. Because the funny thing with startup is that you don't need to throw a lot of money on a startup to become a bubble. Give $50 million to a company that just started, that's a lot of money. And that can be party like 1999. And 50 million, you can give it to a lot of startups before just reaching 1% of the GDP. So, what will happen if the economy slows down? And it's not a big deal to understand why the economy will slow down. Is that the people will start to take this extra money out of the table. And you know, something maybe you are not aware of, but VC market is a funny market because VC, they buy pen wholesale from LPs and sell it retail to entrepreneurs. So they go and find people that are more rich than them to take money from and give that money back to people that are poorer than them. That's the economics. So who do you think is in line first cut out when things go wrong? Is it the guy at the top of the chain or the guy down the chain? And that's where this thing about why do you want to go back in France is not interesting. Because France has many problems, and I'm not on the side of the people that think that this problem will be solved magically overnight. But I don't think a single problem of Europe is really against anything that you can build ambitiously. And the reality is that the kind of startup we can build in Europe are very different from the kind of startup we can build here. And that's what is interesting. If you want to build Silicon Valley style startup, build them in Silicon Valley. There is no better place for that. But the truth about this place is that housing market is going crazy every year. So you want to buy a house, you need to really be lucky. Everything, food costs go up every year. Inflation is the highest in the United States for the simple reason that there is way too much people on way too small problems. But the number of problems that the venture world can solve is much bigger than pure internet. So right now Silicon Valley has an edge on pure internet. But there is much more than pure internet. There is transportation market that needs to be disrupted. There is health market that needs to be disrupted. Let's say you are health startups. Like, good luck with the actual situation of health insurance in the United States. They don't even know if Obamacare is repealed or not. They don't even know if Trump care will be something someday. Yesterday, the president of this country declared in the press that healthcare costs $12 a year. That's a real quote. That's really what he said. And so imagine if you are healthcare startups here. You have a much bigger problem to solve than doing your startup. Because you will be in something that is as fucked up as France. But the truth is that there is a subject where in Europe we have a huge edge. Let's say you want to build a global food company. Where do you think you can build a brand? France or here? Of course France. But if you want to build a pure internet company, where do you have an edge in branding? Here. So it's really just a play of opening your mind to opportunity wherever they are. And the truth is that that's why I'm saying it's a personal decision. In my experience, everyone that moves from a country to another for professional reason always end up depressed. Because professional reason should never drive a decision around where do you want to live. You can always hack that. But personal decision and personal lifestyle decision are much more important. For example, anyone here, if you plan to have children, you will ask a question, how do you want to educate your children? Like, for me, it was a no-go that my children will be educated here for lots of reasons. And I think this kind of decision drive more and more people back. From, like, you know, we are at a sweet spot for that, is how many people ping us to work back in Europe. Right now, we are receiving an email a week from someone, and some of the people from the valley saying, I'm exploring how to come back in Europe. Because things don't go the way we should go. Yeah, go.
Oh yeah, so the topic,
You know
the topic of tonight was Europe is back.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, what do you think about China?
Ah.
China is back as well?
So I have no idea. So the question is, Europe is back, but what about China? Does China is back too? So to be honest, I don't know. You know, China is like this big land of mystery where. So I lived in Hong Kong for 3 years. And the only thing I learned about China is that you should not tell anyone anything about China because you are always wrong. In both ways, good and bad. So I don't know. The only thing I can tell you from my perspective is that I don't believe that any Chinese internet company will go out of China. And I have a lot of reason to believe that. Because I believe a lot in cultural DNA. I think when you are a company that is born with government support, the day you lose this government support outside, you are never able, with whatever money, to change the way you operate. And Chinese internet companies are all government-based. WeChat is a tool for the government to look at what citizens do. They even launched a feature that I find totally crazy. Now on WeChat, my friend told me that you can say what you think about your neighbor and give points. And that points is used in social life. So for example, if your neighbor is not nice because he's making too much loud, you put a wrong grade. And that grade will impeach him to have a good apartment or bank loan. Can have like this kind of consequence. So how that go out from China, good luck, my friends. Like I know that we have like this big plan about expanding blah blah. I don't believe it. I don't believe a single thing in that.
But how about innovation? Because you said like Europe use regulation and the Chinese copy.
The truth is that it's a country that is at such a scale and such close land that I have the feeling it doesn't really matter. For sure, it's a competing vision of the future. For example, you can buy right now in a DNA test in China to choose how much IQ your kid have. And you can change the genetics of your kid to give him a higher IQ. That's a $200 product. And that's illegal in China. And that's fucking scary. Like for anyone with our background in terms of education, thinking that someone can manipulate genes for higher standard test IQ, you're like, what the fuck? Like how that's even come up to someone? That company raised 400 million in seed. What do you want to say? I don't fucking know. Like, it's not another land, it's another continent. Yeah. The other thing I saw is the Chinese army is doing a public announcement about they are ready to give 50 million to anyone that do genetic enhancement of soldiers to make them better at any soldier function. Speed, strong, killing capabilities, lack of empathy, all of that. So it's an open competition. You go on the Chinese defense website, and it's 50 million by genetic CRISPR enhancement that is accepted. Imagine the French army doing that. Like it will be. I think everyone learned before it's even announced. So yeah, there is strong vision of the future that are competing right now. Very strong. Speak very loud.
I'm going to try.
That's cool.
I was thinking, I feel like here in the US, there's still like a cool advantage, which is like, well, first, the culture is the same everywhere. From here to San Francisco to New York, wow, very good.
Are you kidding? Did you ever went in one of these countries to say that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have like, in our community here, we have people from everywhere in the US, and it's like, they understand each other.
Yeah. We saw that in the last election. Yeah. No. Give me one example of one country on earth where the pool result for a candidate are that extreme. Like Trump, how much Trump did in San Francisco in terms of percentage of voting? 3%. Okay. How much Trump did in Cincinnati? Okay. And you can tell me that's the same culture? If it was the same culture, it should be 53-47 and 47-53, and one of the others should have won by a close gap. Like, the level of division, like even Mark Zuckerberg aware that with his 50-state trip. Like, the guy wake up one day and is like, what the fuck? Like, this is really the country where I live? I need to go out and understand the people. So, I think what is true is the power of storytelling. I think America has this very powerful storytelling about the fact that there is one culture in America, there is one flag, one nation, and that everyone should stand behind in terms of economic interest. And I think that story is cracking down, and we have the opportunity to build a competing story that can be Europe is a mess, but that's fine, because lifestyle is better, because education is higher, because you don't die because you have a headache, and we don't let people suffer in hospital for days because they don't have health insurance. And I think entrepreneurs don't underestimate how much that can be strong in a world of exponential times. Think about it. We are entering times where everyone can lose his job in 24 hours. Well, I don't know if someone will not build an artificial version of the family. You imagine an artificial version of myself? That would be weird. But if someone do that, what should I do? I will do like everyone, go and strike. Of course. And I will call the minister and complain. And when all of that is done, I will be out of job. And so it will be cool that day to get an health insurance for free. Yeah?
So my question then is, I mean, given your very Eurocentric look at, entrepreneurship moving forward, who are your partners globally when it comes to doing business? And what is their value proposition to building those partnerships, not only in business, but in government and all of that ecosystem required to call them as what you call...
Yeah, so in government, I think that will be my first point, is to split the two. I think there is more and more distance between the government and entrepreneurship. And I think entrepreneurship is living more and more in a bubble, and that can have wrong effect, but in certain sense, especially from a European perspective, that's not a bad thing. I think the fact that entrepreneurs now in Europe are able to build companies without needing any government help is more than welcome. And I think the global partners for the moment is obviously the US, that stay one of the biggest markets to conquer. But the truth is that right now, Europe as a whole have more and more reason to build things ambitious locally and to build things that make sense in these geographics with the constraint and go on emerging countries like Africa or South America than just being only obsessed about the US. So I think the narrative that building an ambitious company globally now is just about launching a US company is more and more wrong. And I see that on a very single element, is how much American companies are struggling internationally. Let's talk an example like Uber. What is really badly addressed about the Uber case is how much Uber is something new in American business. Why? Because usually a company like Uber with the best funding should be able to kill every local competition everywhere and run the world. Why? Because a few years ago, as an American multinational company, you have access to resource, knowledge, things that are so unique that you can give that to an employee locally, and this employee will just crunch down the market and do something. But Uber is a very interesting case because Uber expansion happened in the same time when the entrepreneurial age starts in Europe. In every single country of Europe and emerging country, in front of Uber, there is a local competitor that is run by an entrepreneur. and they have so much hard time to kill them. For example, in our portfolio, we have a company, it's called Each.
But isn't that more a function of the market being so massive that not one company can dominate the entire thing?
No, but the truth,
Only a competition.
but that's the problem, is that in every single company, one company is dominating. Uber is becoming in the minority stakes in a lot of market. They lost China, they are losing India, they lost Russia, they are losing France. It's not like Uber took 30% of a big market and the local competitor took the majority. No, it's the local competitor crunching down Uber to a level that Uber have to take out of the market. They just announced that they are getting out of the Russian market. They are getting slammed in India, and the recent affairs are not helping them. And I can talk about the French case because it's very interesting. They are spending more and more money every year in France, and the local competitors that are self-sustainable and profitable, because they don't operate globally, are killing them. So local monopolies are something new. Before it was multinational taking over the world, and now entrepreneurial people are able to build very big companies that don't go out from their country. And that changed a lot the dynamics of ecosystem, because you can imagine a world that is much more fragmented in terms of winners. Question? Yeah. So go that way, and then that way, and then that way. Go first.
So,
Speak loud.
you say the European market is not easy because there are a lot of different countries, a lot of different languages, etc. But what about just the core? You talk about Germany, France, England, maybe Switzerland. It's not supposed to be that different in comparison to the US market, for example.
That's one of our big beliefs. So one of our beliefs is that, let's say up to 5 years, any company launching in one of these countries will be able to launch in the 4 other countries instantly without any pain. Because all the software infrastructure will be here, all the administrative structure will be here, and you will have enough density of network across country, with enough people knowing each other and building bridge, that it makes sense. And I think that's really the goal in terms of infrastructure of the family. And I don't think it's that difficult. Right now, it's not possible for cultural reason, because if you think about, so in terms of arbitrage, if you look at UK, for example, you are a French company, and you think, should I launch US or UK? It will be much better to launch US.
It's okay, but Germany or
Or Germany or Switzerland will be the same. It will be even more horrible. Because okay, let's take a simple example. We are in Berlin from 6 months, and we are struggling to incorporate the company. And we are doing the process of understanding how to incorporate a company. And I'm receiving, like, if you take my time as a co-founder of the family, I'm think at the 65 email with a notary, trying to understand how to prove that I have the right to sign the paper to open the company in Germany. But the good thing about the family is that usually you will wait to incorporate before operating. We just operate illegally, and it's fine. And I think that's the difference between us and most of our startups. And I think we show the lead. But doing that process ourselves, I started to understand a few tricks about it. And the second time it will be easier, and the 10 times it will be almost free. But right now, in terms of mindset for an entrepreneur, America is a land that did that work so much. Let's play a game. If I tell you you're a French entrepreneur and you want to expand, how many organizations can help you to launch in the US? 1,000. You can come to accelerators. You can come to incubators. You even have now institutions that are specialized about bringing people here. Because the market is very deep. If I tell you you'll launch in Germany, who can help you?
Rocket Internet.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Rocket Internet is known for that. But we will ping Oliver somewhere. He's like, yeah, I'm paid forward. He doesn't care, and if your company is good, he will copy it. So, no, not yet, but soon, and that's the point. I think if you make that happen on 27 countries, and make it as a single market, and I think few things are helping around that, then it will change the dynamics. Because if you can launch this country for very, very, very low cost, without even thinking about them, then it changes a lot the dynamics market. And I think that's the key, is the go-to-market. Everyone is obsessed. Like, the problem with our political infrastructure in Europe is that everyone thinks the value is in the technology. We help so many people develop technologies. But this is so wrong on so many levels. What is important is the go-to-market. Go-to-market is just a function of the technology. If you have a good go-to-market, your technology gets better. Even if it's crappy at the beginning. Because more clients is more money is more pressure is a better product. And you can start from anywhere, very down, it will always go up. But go-to-market doesn't go up function of the product. You can have the best product in the world, if you don't have clients, nobody really cares. And I think that's where Europe needs a switch. And in that sense, that's where Europe is back. By the way, you know why I don't like this Europe is back? Because it gives the feeling that one day it was here. It's not back, it's Europe is starting. Like, that's a better hashtag. It's Europe is starting, it's not back. We are not back from anywhere. It's not like we never matter in this big game. I don't remember a time where anyone was like, oh, Europe is a land of innovation. No, it's just like, that not really happened.
Yes. So, yeah, my question was, so there is a lot of uncertainty in the US right now with the election of Trump, with the GDP going down, but isn't there a lot of uncertainty in Europe also? Like
yeah, but it matters less.
UK going out with Brexit.
Yeah.
And also, Europe is 27 countries, but here we're speaking only about France, Germany, and London, and
yeah.
The UK. Is it enough?
I think, so somehow, if you, like, I think one of the mistakes, three questions in your question.
Yeah.
First, uncertainty it's big in Europe, of course, but it matters less because the profile of risk is very different. If you take the kind of method we have in Europe, we are used to it. Like, as a nation, we are used to have politicians that don't really do things and having countries that don't function very well and having very irrational things. I mean, and you don't imagine how much that is unfair on global scale to operate. Because being efficient as a country is reserved to Hong Kong, Singapore, and few fake nations like that. Like, most of the country are messy. It's a function of most countries to be very difficult to operate. So if you are naturally born in that, is a huge unfair advantage, I think. And it's an unfair advantage that is not used enough. So the kind of trouble that US is starting to have is really new. Like, what is happening in US now? Let's play that game. Let's imagine your world 1 year ago, and you go to the movies and see a movie that what everything is happening now is inside the movie. What you will think? This is exaggerate. Okay, that's where the real trouble starts. Is that when it's unknown at that level, then people can start to take very rational decisions. And that kind of people like always underestimate how extremum happened. Like, look how many people was sure. How many people was sure that Donald Trump would win? It was a very low fraction of the population. Ned Silver did an article saying that he has a chance to win, and everyone goes after him saying that he's not that smart anymore. Because it goes so deep about so much assumption about the world. So, it can recover, it can change, it can go back, but still, it will never be the same again. Because there's something broken in the narrative. So that's for your question one. For your question two, of course it's 27 countries, but I think the mistake Europe did first was to not build a single platform with few countries. It's a lesson you get in startups. Start small, go deep, and then expand. And so if we can build a cross network between France, UK, and Germany, and one single platform between these three countries, then it will be very easy to add countries on top of that. Because it will be just about integrating new countries inside the infrastructure. If you try to do it with more countries, then you try to do it with things that are not that obvious. Fundraising function is obvious in the UK. Swag function is obvious in France. Discipline is obvious in Germany. It's not that obvious what do you do with Poland. Like, of course, it's more complicated. It's much easier when that becomes one single platform to add in your stack more things. So that's why I'm so obsessed about this focus, and I'm so obsessed about this specialization. We even call that internally specificities, you know, cities, specificities, because I think it's what people need to understand to make it something really working out. And the last question is, of course, all of that is an illusion for the moment, and I understand the under question of your question, but you need to start somewhere. And like I told you, the best way to predict the future is not to predict it, it's to build it. So if I want to tell you that Europe is here, yeah, it's like winter is coming, Europe is coming. That's a good hashtag, Europe is coming. If I want to tell you Europe is coming, I need to build it. You know, it's like winter. I think it's inevitable because there's something wrong.
You were talking about if you want to build a food startup, France is good for that, and you say other example. What about technology? Algolia, they're French, but they came here to the marketing and really.
Yeah.
So do you think technology is still mainly sauvegardez, or?
So I think that's the point. Technology doesn't exist. Algolia is not a tech company. I think that's an illusion. Algolia is a search engine SDK, and as a search engine SDK, who operates the biggest website? America. So you need to be mainly in America, because your biggest market is American startups and American apps. So the fact that the technology is built in France don't really matter. The mistake Algolia never did, and thanks God they never did that mistake, will have to become a US company. Like, I mean, Algolia led their CTO in France, and they came here for marketing function, because they need their go-to-market here. You should always put your go-to-market, your first go-to-market should always be in the biggest country. Like, that's one mistake I don't get why startups do that. I don't understand why startups start their go-to-market in non-obvious country. You should always do your first go-to-market, not where you are in terms of back-end operation, but where you should be in terms of front-end. And if you talk with Algolia, their biggest mistake is to have spent 1 year trying to sell to French clients. Like when Algolia did really pick a point, when they said, oh, let's forget that, let's focus on US clients because they are much better. And now they get French clients because it's kind of a, you know, jet-lag thing, everyone go back in track. But still, that happened because it's a Silicon Valley successful technology company. But the technology aspect is not important. The tech part is a commodity. Of course it's a great product, of course it's a great tech, but that can be built anywhere. Like, you know, in France we love to say that we have good engineers. I love this sentence. Because I wonder which country thinks that the engineers are bad. You know, I wish to see someone one day coming here that, yeah, our engineers are so crap. So we go to France for them. Yeah. You know, and it's so funny because when you talk with French CTO in the Valley, they always tell you something. Yeah, American engineers are bad. Yeah, that's true. As Facebook and Google. It's just that this is called a bias confirmation. Why every French CTO in the Valley think that the engineer in America are crap? Because if you're a good engineer in America, you never apply for a job at a French company. So the kind of engineer you see are the worst one. It's really bias of confirmation. And that bias makes you the illusion that they are not good. But the truth is that they build incredible company. And in every country, if you take the top 1% engineer, it's equal. Like, same thing with Indian engineers. You know, a lot of French people, they tell you, yeah, in India, they are not good at engineering. No, that's not true. The Indian engineers working for French companies are not good. That's for sure. Because if you're an Indian engineer, the last thing you want to do is to write a line of code for a company you don't know in a country where you don't know where it is on the map. Like, you don't wake up being like, oh yeah, my dream is to work as an engineer remotely in bad time frame and be tired all the time and not seeing my family, to write code for a company that can even not pronounce my name. That's the dream of my life. You know? And then people are like, yeah, engineers in India are not that good, I work with them, in France they are better. No, engineers are good everywhere. It's just your ability to access a good one that's hard everywhere.
What do you think about education in Europe, and are they back to that too?
So, the funny thing is that education is less and less something happening in school. And that's why it's something that is happening better everywhere. Like, if the majority of knowledge now is acquired by people over the internet, and internet is equally the same everywhere. You can be in anywhere and get access to knowledge that is very easy to access by anyone. So in that sense, yes. Does our education system on track? No. Like, UK is producing 500,000 people a year that go out without any diploma. France is something like 380,000. The level of depression in our high school never been that high. Of course, it's failure. But still, that's globally. I don't, like, Finland is an exception. It's so funny, I love the education market. Because the education market is a market where everybody is obsessed by a country of 5 million people, Finland, and everybody takes it as a case, and it's unique, and no one else is doing the same thing, and everybody's like, yeah, look, it works, look to Finland. Yeah, 5 million people get access to nice education, and everybody else suffers. But school will finally change. Like, Silicon Valley is on the edge of that. If you go to the CAN labs in Mountain View, very impressive. If you go to Alt School raised, I think, something like 80 million here to build a better primary school. That's huge. But still, it's function of a small village called Silicon Valley. It's not America. If you go to Cincinnati and look at their school, same shit that anywhere. But still, don't really matter anymore. That's the funny thing. The school is changing outside faster than inside. And I think, by the way, that's why school is becoming more and more productive. It's because they feel the heat from outside. It's like they realize that they are not that important anymore. Yeah, please.
I have a question. So I'm trying to understand, what does it mean to put the money in London?
Yeah.
Also, I'm in Paris and the operation
Sure.
for started. I mean,
We don't know.
Exactly.
We have no idea. It's a good concept. It works well in storytelling.
Yeah.
In practice, it's really hard. But here how it starts. I don't know how it works, but I know how it starts. The first thing is that you have to think that you have to increase your level of ambition. What does it mean? Is that you have to understand that if you talk fundraising and you are in Europe, you will be better suited to benchmark yourself against London than anywhere else. So what is the problem with entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs are by definition lazy. You know, that's the tension when you're entrepreneurs. You have your laziness and your ambition. And your laziness is always stronger than your ambition. So let's take an example. You want to build a global leader that kills everyone and is a market category defining company. That's your ambition. And then start your first fundraising. So what does it mean to build a company like that? It means that your first investor and the first money you will get inside your startup will define forever the kind of people you work with. You know, that's something entrepreneurs don't want to hear about, is how much their first investor define how much their company will become. And you can tell them all day long that bad investors kill companies. In their mind, they always think, yeah, but me, I'm different, I'm special. I will not get killed. And then they get killed, and they say, yeah, that's true. It's when people are bad, they are bad. Because people don't understand emotionally the irrationality of investment. So, if your function is ambitious, what do? You say, okay, I define which kind of investor I want, and until I get this quality of investor, I'm ready to be able to not raise. But that's not how people do. What people do with their startup? They say, in 6 months, I will raise a seed. Meaning, I will raise with anyone giving me money in 6 months. If it's bad, I will close my eyes and close my nose and it will work out. But still, that day you killed your company. Why it's good to centralize fundraising in London? Because you cannot lie about that. Why? Because we force you to meet every good investor. So then, it's not by ignorance that you take a bad deal. It's by comparison. You meet someone smart, and he doesn't want to give you money. And you meet someone totally dumb, and he wants to give you money. And at that point, as an entrepreneur, you have to face it. I'm not saying that 100% of the people facing it will do the right thing, not taking money, working harder, and find a way to survive until the smart guy accepts. No, they will, most of them, take the money. But still, if a small minority of people take the right decision, then they will set the example to the next generation. And so what happens if you do that enough, with enough company, then your pool of reference is higher. I can give you how we change valuation in France. You know, average valuation in France before the family was so low. The way we did that, we said, if you raise below a certain level of valuation, we kick you out of the family. So what happened? That the first 20 companies that tried to raise, you kick them, a lot of them. Because only few succeed. But the new generation came and look at the one that succeed, and they look at the valuation, and they tell investor, yeah, but that guy raised at that valuation, so why not me? That's also how we change investor relationship. You know, we fight so hard for the first company don't accept certain terms. What happened with every second company? They come, they ask the entrepreneur, what terms do you have? And the entrepreneur say, I have these terms. And then he says to the investor, I cannot accept. That guy got it, why I will not got it? Because of course I'm better. So believe in the pride of entrepreneurs. Believe in that, it's very strong. And so if you set up standards somewhere, then everyone focus here. And it's true, for example, we lived it recently with one of our startups that went for 1 day in Germany about sales and expansion. This company is considered as one of the best companies in France around this question. And then they came back and they were so depressed. They told us we are so bad compared to the average German one. Because again, your reference changed. And that's why it's very important to specialize city. Because then it becomes a single point of reference about a question. So even if you still fundraise in Paris, I'm not saying that French company will not fundraise in Paris. They will still fundraise in Paris, but they will always fundraise with this standard in mind and this transparency in mind. And that can change the local game. And that means that in every country, the level of fundraising can improve. Yeah.
Do you believe in the 10 billion euros Macron talked about before getting elected? And do you think it will change the way we
I think that's typically the kind of thing where Macron is wrong by definition because he's a French president. What a French president do? He take money he doesn't have and spend it because it's based on the French culture of the administration. So you are Macron. You are really willing to help people. What do you think they need? You believe what they tell you. What happened with every fucking entrepreneur meeting Macron? What do you think?
Take a selfie.
Sorry?
Take a selfie.
Yeah, selfie, a lot of selfies.
Yeah, selfie. That's first. And then Macron asked, what is your biggest problem? Oh yeah, I didn't find the funding I need. And then the guy heard that for 1,000 times, and he come in his office and goes, guys, we need to put money. No one gets money in this fucking country. But it's false. It's not a question of money. It's a function of a lot of problems. There is not a single French startup that have a problem of fundraising. There is not a single European startup that have a problem of fundraising. The problem with European startups is that they are weak, not good, and not traction enough. You want an example? I love this example because it made me love so much. When I started the family in 2013, I didn't come in France for 3 years and a half. So I forget how France works. And then I started to have all these entrepreneurs complaining about the revenue focus of VC. it will go like that. What happened when you try to fundraise? Oh, everyone focus on my revenue and no one give me money. Oh yeah, your revenue is how much? I don't have revenue. Really? Why? Because I'm a startup. Look, in America, we raise millions without revenue. Really? Who in America? Everyone. Like, seriously? I don't know a single startup in the valley that raised without revenue. Are you kidding? Look, Facebook. They stay years without revenue. Yeah, Facebook did 1.7 million first year, and 3.5 million second year, and 10 million third year. What? Yeah, they do a lot of revenue. Why? Because it's a TechCrunch distortion. When Mark Zuckerberg goes to TechCrunch and speak about Facebook, what does he say? We don't focus on revenue. Underline? Yeah, we did 10 million last year, it's so small. If someone do 1.5 million first year in France, he's a king of the hill. It's like he stopped to work. Like 1.5 million, you imagine it's that much. And that's what is the problem with cultural bias, is that people speak words, but they don't understand the meaning. And when here people say revenue is not important, don't focus on revenue, it means, yeah, just do enough revenue to be serious as a company. Just do a few millions. But when the startups do a few millions in Europe, they are like, oh my God, we are so exceptional. And that is the problem with European startups, is that there is so many crappy startups that try to fundraise, that should not be able to fundraise, that finally fundraise because BP exists and all this crap, and then they become standard on the market. And then they explain that they did R&D for 7 years and they raised a lot of money and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is that this startup, when they took all the stupid money out of the market, and they start to be forced to raise with global smart money, no one wants to invest. And then the narratives become, oh, no one wants to invest in French startups. I don't know a single startup at the family that struggle to raise money, high standard globally when they play the global game. Payfit raised 19 million without writing a single deck in less than 13 months. And it's a French company. And they don't have a single euro from the pays. Why? Because they never play the crap game. They play from the beginning the right game. Payfit is doing revenue and growing 20% a month from day one. And they did that even before having a product. The day they launched a product, it was already 200 clients. And now it's hundreds of clients. That impressed investor, and you know the funny thing is that all the investors that talk to us, globally they tell us that we are the only one introducing French companies that don't look weak. Because that's the problem, is that people are so wrong about how you build a startup that then they become weak and they think that they are struggling to raise because they are in France and not somewhere else. But let me tell you something, you will need all to remember that. Is capital is the most mobile thing in the world. No one is struggling to do an international wire. That problem is solved from a long time. If there is a good company in Kazakhstan, people will invest in it. Nobody will care that it's in Kazakhstan. Maybe we will set up a holding in Delaware to make it easier, but still, it can be run as a Kazakhstan company. But the problem in Kazakhstan is not the fact that it's Kazakhstan, it's the fact that no one built there a company that is really valuable on the global market as an arbitrage. And of course, if you invest in Kazakhstan, you want something better than investing in Europe. Let me give you an image that will stuck with you all. And it's unpolitically correct, and I'm sorry in advance. Being a French startup on the global market is like being a black kid in a US university. If as a black kid you want to get in, you need to be first in your class. Look Obama. He needs to be cool, he needs to be Harvard student, president of the Harvard Review, never cheated on his wife once in his life, too scared to be caught and have troubles. And then he become president and everyone has a lot of things to say about him. On the other side, if you're white, the standard is much lower about what do you need to be a president. And that's reality of America, and that's exactly the same reality for French startups. If you are a French startup, you need to be top of your class. The problem is not that you are French. The problem is that you are just an arbitrage in a global scale. But still, if you are top of your class, you will always find money. And the problem is that Macron can give 10 billion. The only thing that will happen is that this 10 billion will go in weak companies that will take engineers, inflate the price, and make the market harder. So I'm not sure it's a good thing, to be real. Because public money is easy to find.
What do you think about this?
No problem. Go ahead after.
Questions.
Yeah. But speak loud, please.
You guys mentioned about China.
Yep. I will give you the microphone.
So we also, like, since the last 30 years, the China GDP is growing like over 7%, like it's going higher, and then it is higher than USD and Europe. And then it's forecasted, like, I don't know how many years they can maybe over USD. And then second is, well, for these startup environments like that, well, as China is a state-owned enterprise, well, I mean, the startup ecosystem is like this government support behind something like that. I mean, they have like a lot of control or incentive behind, so it's all like government money. But then, well, it's also, you can see like the innovation in China. So how do you compare this system like with the West?
So again, like I said, I have no idea. I don't have an insight about China. The only thing I see is the external result. Right now, I don't see any Chinese company going outside this market because the market is too big and the opportunity locally is way too big for them to be interesting outside. And the funny thing with China market is that it's so specific. People in China pay for things on the internet. Who pay anything here? Like, that's the first problem of going out from China for an internet startup. So of course, it's a huge success, and I'm sure there's a lot of good things. But again, it's so close, and it's so different, and it's so outside the world, that it doesn't really have any influence about how the outside worlds operate for the moment. And a lot of people are bullish and say, Chinese company will conquer the world. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But I don't see any rational element to believe that right now.
If I may, actually, the Chinese companies, they go out of the market, but it's mainly in Asia.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. My question was, what do you think about Station F in France?
I think Station F put France on the map big time in terms of PR. And I think it will solve a huge real estate problem about startup in Paris because it's offering a lot of space. I think everyone in the co-working space market now in Paris is like that. Like, oh my God, the guy is killing the price. And I think just for that, it will be a huge success. And the good thing, I think, from a global perspective, having a single point of place where you can go, like every single American entrepreneur that now will go to Paris will go through Station F, and that simplifies everything, and that's great. Because it becomes, like, if you tell them, come to the family, speak to 300 people, it's a hard sell. And we did that hard sell for years. But if you tell them, come to Station F, and you talk to thousands of people, then it becomes an easy sell. And in that sense, it's great. That's why we are super excited about that.
Please. I would like to know just what do you think about the startup ecosystem in middle-sized city in France, like Montpellier? Do you think it's possible to create company?
So I think, again, I think we need to go out from this ecosystem thinking. You can build a big company from Montpellier, but you need to understand how to do it. If you want, like, for example, I was recently in Tours because I grew up in Tours. And so they invited me to do a conference, and the guy was like, yeah, let's build a great ecosystem in Tours. And I was like, why? Like, well, why anyone on earth wants to do that? Well, it's like, you know, the first thing you want to do when you're in Tours is to leave Tours. Seriously. No, it's cool for holidays. I love it. But do you think Tours means ambition? That city is cool, is blocked in Renaissance. Like nothing changed from Renaissance. Why will change now? No, but that's fine. You need city like that. You need city like that for holidays, blah blah. So now, does it mean you can live in Tours and build something big? Of course, because living in Tours is not a problem. And I think US companies are so good at that. Let's play a game. Where's the founder of Slack live? Where's the founder of Slack is based? Sorry? Yeah, but don't give the answer. That's a bored guy. Like, yeah, I heard that story so many times. So the founder of Slack is in Vancouver. I bet you to find one interview that is talking about that. It's talking about Silicon Valley. So if you are in Montpellier and you build a company, just speak about the fact that you are in the place where your biggest clients are and where your image needs to be. And then live in Montpellier, like anyone wants to live in Montpellier, who likes Montpellier. But you need to dissociate this living function from this working function. And that's how an ecosystem will appear. Because you will attract talent that will not come because it's Montpellier, but they will come because it's you. And that's where you need to reach a point. And the problem in this small city in France is that they want to build ecosystem, so they mimic the function. And that's where the ridicule starts. Because it's when like a kid tries to play like an adult. Look weird, yeah. And so when people tell me, hey, in Montpellier we want to build a tech city, they're like, why? No one wants to build like, even when people say that about Paris, I feel weird. And Paris is much bigger. I'm like, yeah, you know, Silicon Valley is good at that. I don't know if you can replicate that. So you cannot replicate that story infinitively. Yeah.
So the thing is why you cannot replicate? What makes the valley the valley? Because there is nothing.
Because it's a valley.
Yeah, that's all.
History is strong, my friend.
Yeah.
In history, no one never repeated itself and happened as a copy function of anything else happening before. So if you take the Renaissance, you know, it's not the first time in history of humankind we have this problem. It's the first time it really happened and it's documented is the Renaissance. Because during the Renaissance, every king in Europe was jealous of Italy. Why is the Renaissance in Italy stronger than anywhere else in Europe? Because Italy did not build Renaissance as a copy of something else, but it appears to be something in their culture about rediscovering the antiques. And when does the Renaissance started to spread around? Is not when people copy the Renaissance, it's when people locally did the same path. And so the Renaissance in France is very different from the Renaissance in Italy, and the Renaissance in the UK is very different from the Renaissance in Italy, and etc. And why? Because in these countries, some people had the ambition to do something about renewing the art, renewing the intellect, renewing the science. But they end up with very different destinations. So, is it possible to copy Silicon Valley? No. Is it possible to have the same objective as Silicon Valley? Yes. But still, it will be a very different story. Europe will not build something that looks like the Valley. We can leapfrog that. We can build something better. To give you a more recent image, when Africa started to install mobile network, they started with 4G. Imagine Africa will be like, oh yeah, we want mobile phone, let's install Edge. Same thing when we open co-working space. We open things that are so IKEA, that are so caricature of how it should look like, that it look like fake. Go to the bureau in Paris, or we work in Paris. We work in Paris, one of the most beautiful places in the world. You go, when we work here, it's shitty. But why? Because we don't care here. And so when we replicate, we take like the caricature of it. And that's why it's really bad to try to copy things.
So what's the solution?
What we are doing, leapfrog. Install 4G directly. Look at the kind of company we built as a family. There are companies that are better than any of their equivalents in the valley. There is not a single company at the family that is doing something that that has an American competitor that is less good.
Why claiming that you are based in the valley?
Because marketing. You don't need your crowd, you just need your efficiency. If Algolia was, no, but look, what story do you want to sell? Do you want to sell Algolia's story as being a French startup, proud to be French tech? By the way, stop with this fucking French tech thing. Like, if Algolia was putting a French tech logo on their website, I will go there and kill each of them, one after the others. Because that day, this company disappeared as a company.
And don't you think that one day, the Silicon Valley, everyone will be claiming Silicon Valley, and Silicon Valley will lose this image?
We can do something else that day. Don't live in the future, we live in the present.
With Juicero, it's already kind of coming that people say, okay, sometimes the Silicon Valley startups start to build like things and useful things.
Yeah, that's right.
And do you have this impression that the valley is losing slowly?
It will be a long story before it happens. I'm not saying it will not happen, I don't know. Again, I don't really care about the future. I care about the present. And I think this anticipation thing is very French, by the way. We love that. We love to be like, yeah, we are the beginning of a trend. Yeah, you don't win in trends. You know, very few cultural shifts you want to do. The first one is that everyone in France wants to be right, but no one wants to win. I don't care about being right, I just want to win. And I think it's a very strong distinction. You can be wrong and win. It happens very often, by the way, in business. You don't imagine how many people in business that are. If you watch Game of Thrones, the best scene about that is the Red Wedding. Because Robb Stark can win every single battle. Robb Stark is French. He wins every single battle and end up killed at the Red Wedding. That's a very French business thing. Because he's obsessed about being right. He's not obsessed about winning the war. So you can win every single battle and end up losing the war. So you have to look about the war. And if you look at the war right now, there's one battle you don't want to win, is the French image battle when it's not necessary. If Algolia claimed to be a French tech startup, Algolia will never be Algolia. Because that battle, as Algolia, you cannot win it. It's impossible. It's like it goes so much after so many things that so many people want to believe that you have to choose between building a business or a political movement. So build a business. It's much easier. But if you are Agricool, like for example, I will give you this example. Agricool did a video recently and they did it in French. Do you think they did it in French because they are a French company or because it's a strategic move? Of course it was strategic. Of course you want to build a brand. If you say we grow vegetables, you want to say we grow them in France because it looks much safer than saying we grow them in America. Let's say you build a urban farming company building agriculture tech from America. What first image comes to your mind?
Pesticide.
Yeah, exactly. If you say, I'm building a global vegetable company from France, what is the first image that comes to your mind? A farmer, happy, that talks to his strawberry and make love with his vegetables, to make them better. And I think people don't use caricature enough in the way we think strategically. It's very important. It's not a question of pride. It's just a question of efficiency. Yeah?
It's advertising, okay.
Yeah, call it like you want. But, yeah. I don't like advertising because advertising is the idea that you sell crap somehow. You know, it's really, no, it's not. Don't be French. Giving the best story of yourself is not lying. It's just using the element. Algolia is not lying about the fact that they are an American company. They are just hiding the fact that the majority of the operation is in France. You see, there is a big difference. And that is storytelling. When you go on a first date, do you talk about your ex? Why? Are you a liar?
No, but
Stop. That's it. It's done. That's his storytelling. The first date, you storytell.
Yeah.
And it's important in the business to think like first date. All of your users is in first date with you. You don't want to tell them things that is not necessary for the understanding. Yeah, please.
Just to come back on your Game of Thrones said, I feel like Europe is lacking, and we've heard that like for 3 years.
Oh yeah, that's
want
true.
to believe it, like we know it's coming, but like what you already pitch, like if I had to pitch to someone, okay, Europe is actually coming, what are the 3 or 5 that actually make it true?
It's like winter. It will become obvious after. No, but on that you are right. And by the way, you are right in the big sense, not only in the small sense. In the big sense that because this story is not real yet, you need to make it as a story that pushes forward. So I think it's not a question of fact, it's much more a question of emotion, and we need to get out from the fact game. Because the problem with the fact game is that it's not a very interesting game, because it always hides a much deeper reality. Let's play a game. You want to talk and say funding numbers. Funding numbers in Europe on the last 5 years reached to the point of Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley last year is 41 billion of venture spending. Europe is 35 billion. So 35 is just 6 billion behind the value. But the problem is that hides a much higher fragmentation, and where in Silicon Valley you will have one winner that will get 100% of the funding, in Europe we will have one single company by country receiving a small amount. So the total will be cool, but it will not give the impression that we are building ambitious startups. Another example, if you look at how many billions-dollar companies are produced, Europe is producing, in terms of total valuation, as much as the Valley on the last 2 years. But the problem is that the revenue and the multiple of the companies in the Valley are much better. So it means that the total value in the Valley is higher, and Europe still looks weak because we pay much smaller multiples.
If you don't talk about money prices, you talk about students, how many people after getting a high level diploma?
Yeah, become entrepreneurs. It's higher in Europe than in the US now. But still, again, that hides the fact that we don't have cool companies like Facebook that hire thousands of them.
Why so? Europe is back.
That's the point. So no, what I want to tell you is that I know that if you play this factual game, it doesn't work out. And I think if you talk to people that need this narrative, you cannot convince these people yet. So we are not in the late majority convincing game yet. We are in the very early adopter. And as a very early adopters, what are the emotional facts that you can take? And that is much more interesting. Because in that sense, from 2 years, Europe is building in terms of perception something that is much better on a lot of issues that matter for people. Social issue, climate issue, political issue, openness issue, all of that is right now on the wrong storytelling side, and I hope Europe will not do the mistake to try to play the factual game. American Dream was not something factual, but it brings a lot of people to build it real. We need to build a narrative that is not real, but make people like us building it real.
So it's more Europe is coming.
Yeah, Europe is coming is a much better hashtag. Thank you very much.
Que l'enfant